Hello and welcome to Tavern Talks, the show where we chat all things games industry. My name is Roxanne Baker. I am the precision marketer here at Appreciation Engine, and I am also your new host. We have a fantastic discussion for you here today, so I invite you to grab your favorite brew, pull up a cozy chair, and enjoy. Hello friends and welcome to the Tavern. Today our guest is Russ Ovans. He is the Director of Revenue at Eastside Games, which is based out of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Welcome, Russ.
Oh, pleasure to be here, Roxanne.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks so much. So we have this little tradition. We're 2 episodes in, but it's still a tradition in Tavern Talks. Of What did you bring to the tavern today? I guess I can start off here. I have got a fairly non-traditional shandy, so it's ginger ale and beer instead of, I think it's supposed to be like 7-Up and beer or something.
Is that
like
any good?
I quite enjoy it. It's nice because it's a little bit early here for drinking, so I've cut it down a bit. And this is the beer that I am drinking. It is Sluice Juice by Barkerville Brewery, or Brewing. Very good. Very fruity, which is what I like. Yeah.
Nice.
So, what have you got there, Russ?
Well, I'm on the patio in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Beautiful.
And I am drinking, or about to start, an unplugged porter from Off-Grid Ales of Harvey Lake, New Brunswick. And this is, I've been looking forward to trying this one.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll have to give us a little review here. First sip, first impression.
Yeah, so my wife and I decamped to Fredericton back in November and never left because we were waiting for the COVID situation to get better in British Columbia because basically the COVID numbers are extremely low in Atlantic Canada. So we came here, we quarantined for 2 weeks, and we've been staying with my mother-in-law, and I've actually been pleasantly surprised. Fredericton's actually a very nice city.
Yeah, I've been there before. It's beautiful. Yeah, like a little kind of university town on a river. It's gorgeous.
Capital city, lots of craft breweries. So it's basically like Victoria, BC, except without the wealth inequality.
Oh, that's good. I mean,
so cheers.
Cheers, of course.
Now, this is a very good beer. I'm very, very pleased with this choice.
Oh, fantastic. All right, so let's kick this off. My first question for you would be, what was your journey to mobile gaming?
Quite by accident, actually. So I was the CEO and founder of a boutique software engineering company that we wrote software for day traders. And there's about a dozen of us, and we always wanted to have our own products and services. And so this was a long time ago. In 2007, Facebook opened up their API to third-party developers, and we built one of the very, very first games for Facebook, and we did it just kind of as a project for my CTO and co-op student. And I said, let's build a scratch and win game for Facebook. They went off and they did it, and they added all sorts of game mechanics like collecting, leveling up, and we were the very first game, I think, on Facebook, this even before Zynga, to monetize the sale of virtual currency. And so very, very quickly, it became the focus of our business. So in 2008, we pivoted and we became a social game company. And long story short, I sold it in 2010 to Real Networks. It became Gamehouse Canada, and I retired. I basically was work optional at the age of 45.
Oh, nice.
And which, careful what you wish for. It's also kind of boring. I was too young to retire. So fast forward 2018, I'm living in Vancouver and meet up with Jason Bailey, who's one of the founders of Eastside Games. And I knew Jason because he had a Super Rewards, which was a offer wall and currency monetization platform on Facebook back when we had built our games. So I was his first customer. my company, Backstage, which is what it was called. I don't think I mentioned that. So Backstage was Superword's first customer, and I'd known Jason for 10 years. I'd admired him. I thought he was a genius. So met up with him to see how things were going. Eastside Games was just starting to really take off with the success of Trailer Park Boys' Greasy Money on mobile. And I came to work as a data analyst, senior data analyst for him initially, and then very quickly kind of took over the growth team or user acquisition and built that up. And 3.5 years later, I'm still there, and we're now part of Leaf Mobile. We've gone public, and we're continuing to grow, and are really. A part of our expansion is through IdleKit, which we license to other studios to help them get a leg up in building idle narrative games, which is kind of the niche that Eastside Games has carved out.
So you said you came on to Eastside Games as like a data analyst. Could you maybe talk about what a data analyst does at a mobile game studio?
Sure. So at Eastside Games, we have two types of data analysts. We have game data analysts who work on running A/B tests and measuring performance of the games with an eye towards improving retention and ARPDAU. So keeping users around and monetizing them. ARPDAU is average revenue per daily active user.
Okay, awesome.
A marketing analyst, which is the other kind of analyst that we have at the studio, is really there to support campaign managers or performance marketers to measure the effectiveness of the money that we spend on advertising to acquire users. So it's more about how well are our ad campaigns performing.
So I guess that kind of answers my next question, which is going to be like, what is the fundamental problem that a data analyst helps solve?
For the campaign managers, what we do is we measure the return on ad spend, or ROAS. So, and if you're going to go spend money on acquiring users, you want to know, was that money well spent, right? And so ROAS is what's the lifetime value of the customers that we've acquired divided by the amount of money we spent to acquire them. So you want that to be more than 100%.
Yes.
Right. And if it isn't, you don't really have a viable business. Right? You can't go and buy users. The cost of user acquisition has to be much less than the lifetime value of your customers, or you're screwed. Right. So if I spend, say, $1,000 to acquire 100 new installs for Trailer Park Boys, and those 100 users only generate $800 in revenue before they all churn out of the game, if we stop playing it, then our ROAS is 80%. We just lost $200. So what a market data analyst does is helps the campaign managers to see how each of their campaigns is doing. And a related metric is what are the days to break even on an ad campaign, right? So when do I reach 100% ROAS and start making a profit, right? So that's the days to break even. So some mobile game studios, the ones with deep pockets, large marketing budgets, they want to get the money back in 365 days. Like they'll spend money today on the hope that they're going to get 100% ROAS in 365 days. Eastside Games, when I first started, we were more aggressive. We wanted our money back in 90 days. But traditionally or typically, when you talk to other mobile game studios, they want their money back in about roughly 180 days.
Okay. And,
how do you measure that, though? Like, are you talking about just the paid users, or do you also include organic users over that time frame? For lifetime value, do you just look at in-app purchases that are made, or IAP, or do you also include ad revenue from users, that kind of thing? So there's many different ways of doing it. It's really about the size of the studio and how comfortable they are with respect to their marketing budget, right? So the problem, though, is that when you're a campaign manager and you start spending a bunch of money on acquiring users, how do you know you're going to get that back?
Yeah, I was going to say.
So the real problem is that you need to be able to predict lifetime value by a certain day for each user. That every user we acquire today, as quickly as possible, we need to be able to estimate what their lifetime value is going to be by day 90, day 180, day 360, whatever it might be.
So coming up on my last question here, I'm going to pivot a little bit.
Don't ask me about the IDFA. Don't ask me about
Okay, well, I guess we're done our interview now. And, I'm here to talk about privacy changes. And
Yeah, I knew this question was coming. Yeah.
of course, that's all we're talking about, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah. So, okay, everything I said about measuring individual campaign performance is no longer valid because or at least it's changing significantly, or some old timer like me, it's just going back to the way we used to do things, right? So
old school.
Old school.
Nice.
So the ATT Apple iOS 14.5's deprecation of the IDFA means that we no longer get row level attribution for each install that's on an iOS device. We still do on Android. For now, though, the rumor is that Google's going to follow suit, and we're going to lose that with So everything that I said about measuring individual campaign performance when you're buying users was predicated on the fact that you could determine exactly which of your installs came from which ad campaign that you were running. And of course, that is no longer possible. We cannot identify at the user ID level within our games that this user came from a campaign we ran on Google versus Facebook versus cross-install versus AppLovin versus Unity, whatever, right? So what we're back to doing is effectively almost like brand advertising, where you can't really measure the ROI. You don't really know how many users you acquired because you ran that ad on the Super Bowl. And so you're back to doing what we're doing anyway, while we're changing our models based on the SCAD network data, the data that we do still get from our MMPs and from Apple. The old school way is just to look at it in terms of what's the revenue of our game? How much are we prepared to spend on user acquisition? And how are we looking, in terms of the amount we're spending and how much we're expected to get back? What's our days to break even if we're spending, $50,000 a day on this game, without any real sense of this one campaign is doing better than this other one, so we should put more money. It's more about just spreading out the ad spend and looking holistically at kind of the health of your game.
Okay.
Right? So, So it makes the market data analysts either more important because of, improved models with SCAD reporting from Apple and your MMPs, or less important because you're taking a more just simpler, like I said, holistic approach to doing user acquisition. So at this point, we're doing both.
I was going to say, but yeah, it really seems like it's going back to that old school kind of marketing where you're not really getting that data in, so you kind of have to just go based on context and like what you think will do well. I would imagine there's like a lot of emphasis on creative and trying to really contextually.
Well, there's always been, an emphasis on creative, and a big part of the growth team at Eastside Games is our creative artists. So you're always kind of experimenting with creative, but the experiments that we could run, at least on iOS, were very fine grade. We knew that this campaign running this creative outperformed this other campaign with that creative. Now it's just more about, are we getting low CPMs? Are we getting low cost per install, overall, so, and it's funny, maybe it's the dirty secret of the mobile game marketing people that it doesn't really matter, like maybe you can achieve the same level of success without doing all of that measurement and analytics.
It's interesting. Makes me think a little bit more art than science, or nice little mix in there.
It's a mix. It's a good mix, which is why I really kind of enjoy it. And I use both hemispheres of my brain, I like to think, and so the role that I have at ESG is perfect for that, because you're getting to be creative about like, wow, what kind of ad campaigns can we try? What's a good way to optimize the portfolio of games that we have? How much should we be spending on this game versus that, and on which networks? So there is definitely you're constantly experimenting.
that's all we have time for today. Russ, thank you again for joining us here at the tavern, or at the patio in your case.
The patio.
The patio. Maybe we'll need to rebrand here. We'll call it patio participation. Patio pontification. There we go.
Oh, that's even better.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, there's a good use of your art and science brain. So, well, I look forward to having a beer with you in the future on a real patio.
Sure. That would be great. Yes. Awesome. You know, once the world gets a little,
we're
safer
very close
out there. We're getting there. Light at the end of the tunnel.
Close.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, cheers, and stay safe. Thanks again for joining us here at the tavern today. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and if you did and would like to see more, there is a link in the description box down below to the full video. Otherwise, if you have any comments, we would love to hear them, and we hope to see you next time.